Lisa from Mythical Witchery. Welcome to my channel, and if you've been here before, welcome back. Today I'm doing a flip through and a review of the recently released Witch Sister Tarot. This tarot deck is published by Llewellyn. It was published at the end of 2023 in America and in January of 2024 here in the UK. It's listed on the box at $32.99 US, and it sells on Amazon in the UK for about £30. So this is another very typical Llewellyn style box with the magnetic flip opening. It's got the big guidebook inside as well as the cards. This deck is by Julia Jeffrey, and you may be familiar with her. She was the artist of the Tarot of the Hidden Realm, as well as a deck on fairies, and I'm not sure which one it was, but I know it's in the guidebook, so we'll have a look at that. So we've got this, as I said, magnetic flip opening. This is what the back of the deck says. Fly into the heart of tarot with your witch sisters, thrumming with the power of Celtic legends and kindred spirits. This hauntingly beautiful deck captures the bold and mysterious nature of witchcraft. Julia Jeffrey's evocative artwork reimagines the Rider-Waite-Smith system into a world of iconic witches, magical familiars, and extraordinary stories. The full-color guidebook shows you how to invoke the aid of deities, connect with the elements, and make magic in your readings. Each card inspires a profound sense of chosen family through which you'll find boundless wisdom and your sisters in tarot. So let's have a look inside the box. Hello, Jellybean. This says the magic of the ancestors beats in your blood. Feel its power and free your wild soul. So this is the guidebook. And this is a very typical Llewellyn guidebook. In recent years, they've started to do full page images of the cards, which I think is just wonderful because you can really see the detail. So we'll just look at the beginning here. So yes, the other tarot or deck that she worked on was the Dream Fairies inspirational cards. So in the introduction, she just talks a little bit about what inspired her to make this deck, her background. She's from Scotland, and how the folklore of Scotland played a huge part in influencing her to make this deck. The Major Arcana will find several of the cards renamed, and we'll look at those as we go along. The Minor Arcana has been renamed as well. So the Suit of Wands is renamed as Trees. The Cups as Waters. The Swords as Skies. And the Pentacles as Stones. We'll also find that the Court cards, the Page has been renamed to the Maid, and the Knight has been renamed to the Witch. The Queen and the King stay the same. At the back of this book, there are spreads. So suggestions for single card readings, 2 card and 3 card spreads, 3 realm spreads, the Charm of Iron spread, which is 5 cards. And then there's a little bit about working beyond the spreads and working with the tarot in other ways. We have a total of 202 pages. So it's a really beautiful, beautiful guidebook. It is high gloss, so it's, well, I wouldn't say necessarily a high gloss. It's glossy, so it's a little hard to photograph, and you're probably seeing some reflections here. So my apologies for that. But that is the guidebook. What do you think of that, Jelly Bean? Oh, you've managed to find a little ribbon, have you? You want that ribbon? Here. You come over here. There you go. Okay. So now I'll just pop these cards out. That is the inside of the box. Really beautiful. Got a ribbon. Love a ribbon. Okay, so the cards. So these are the backs. Aren't they stunning? Of course, they are a glossy stock. Just beautiful. I've already decided how I'm going to edge this deck. I've got a pink that I think will be absolutely perfect. There's no edging on it. There are no borders, which I really love. This is a very typical Llewellyn cardstock, so it's a little on the thin side, but that makes it very easy for me to shuffle. And I know other people who have problems with their hands also find this deck a little easier to shuffle, or these Llewellyn decks. It is a typical card size for a tarot deck. It should be a 70 millimeters by 120. Oh, it's a little under 120, about 118. Okay, I'm going to flip the camera over and we'll have a look at the individual cards. And we'll be right back. All right, so we're starting with the Fool. I love these little rabbits in the moon here. And the Scottish thistle. It's beautiful. And the little rabbit companion here. The Magician. The artwork is really beautiful. The High Priestess, or Nick Nevin. I'm just going to look this up in the book here. So Nick Nevin was a great witch queen of Scottish folklore. She's connected to the Greek witch goddess Hecate, and also with the Wild Hunt and the fairies as well. Interestingly enough, the name Nick Nevin is also the title of a role within historical Scottish witch covens, which was equivalent to the High Priestess. So really a perfect choice. Jelly Bean has brought his ribbon back for me. He likes to play fetch. So the Empress, or the Queen of Elfam, again, Scottish folklore. There's a story in Scottish folklore about a woman from Ayrshire who was visited by the Queen of Elfam, disguised as an old beggar woman. For the Emperor, we have the Tree of Life. In the book, she talks about how in ancient times, much of Scotland was covered by the ancient Caledonian forest. Now there's only scattered remnants of that forest left, but it's still possible deep in the woods to feel echoes, she said, of what it must once have been like. She said Celtic legend is rich in magical trees, from the 9 hazels dropping nuts into the pool for the salmon of knowledge, to the Eildon tree correctly, opening a door to the underworld. For the Hierophant, we have tradition, or the tradition. The Lovers. And here we've got the Rowan and Thistle, which are both strongly symbolic of Scotland's native magic in different ways. She says the rowan is arguably our most magical tree, used in a wide array of spells and rituals, often for purposes of protection and healing. Charms of rowan and red thread have been used, particularly in the Highlands, for centuries and are still popular today. The thistle, which has become our national symbol, speaks to our souls in another way, and it may be said that its spikiness and resilience resonate with something vital in the Scottish character. Both grow wild and in abundance. That's really beautiful. I love that. For the Chariot, we have flight. Oh, that's just so beautiful with the raven. Strength. The book says that this is a Scottish wildcat, which is now an endangered species. She said today these wary, feral creatures are found only in the remote Highlands, and sightings are very rare. Witches, she says, are often shapeshifters, and cat transformations are one of the most frequently recorded, with stories of whole covens transforming themselves into cats and wreaking havoc. That's great. Okay, we've got the Hermit. Now I know I'm going to pronounce this incorrectly. That she says in the book, here we see Gormshall, which is Gaelic for blue eye, because she had one blue eye and one brown, which was a reclusive witch from Lochaber in the Scottish Highlands, greatly renowned for her superior power and skill. I do apologize for mispronouncing some of these Scottish words. This is Spinner of Threads for the Wheel. She says, for the witch Sister Tarot, it felt like something simpler and more tangible was needed. Wool, in many ways, is the raw stuff, the very fabric of life, and certainly in rural Scotland for century upon century, sheep have been essential to the survival of the common folk. Tending the flock, shearing the fleeces, then cleaning, carding, and spinning the wool into yarn were skills that most country women would need to acquire. The dexterity and flair shown in woven and knitted textiles from the Highlands and Islands in particular are celebrated worldwide to this day. And it's true, there are shops all over the UK which are dedicated just to products that are made from Scottish wool. Really beautiful. And the craftsmanship is incredible. Justice. I'm not going to go through the book on every single card, but I thought for the majors it would be maybe a good idea to at least have a quick look at the book while I'm doing this. So this is the Morrigan, one of the most compelling and complex figures in Celtic mythology. One of her many roles is to choose which warriors would die on the battlefield. She flies above with her crows and swoops down to touch those that she has chosen. She and her sisters, I'll attempt it, but I'll do it badly, Maka and Bodb, I'm not sure. That's a guess here. Here's the word here. Also play a vital protective role defending their land from invaders, wielding storms of sorcery to confuse the enemy. The Morrigan can seem vengeful. She's certainly fierce and formidable, but she's also the great mother and treats her people with a mother's care, which includes a firm guiding hand. So perfect for the Justice card. And here we have Initiation, which would normally be the Hanged Man. And this says that the stag, which we first saw in, was it The Magician? Is transformed from what we see here into the white stag, a creature of the other world, a herald of deep change, should we choose to follow his path. And here we have Death. So here we have the Celtic mother goddess, the Cailleach, revealed in both her summer and winter forms. And next we have Temperance, or the flow. She says in the book, the flowing swirl of the spiral is the quintessential pattern in Celtic art and speaks volume of the skills, subtlety, and vision of the ancestors. For the devil, we have the Lord of the Forest. For the Tower, we have Elf Stroke. She says Scottish witch trial testimonies and folkloric accounts speak of witches firing elf shot, Neolithic flint arrowheads at their enemies. These weapons are described as having the quality of a thunderbolt. There's also a notion in fairy lore that the elf kind mark those humans that they choose for their attention with a blue shadow across their face, and that being so marked out can bring great gifts but may also cause affliction or even madness. The medical term stroke evolved from the word elf stroke when it was thought that the paralysis and other sufferings were inflicted by angry elves whom a human victim had displeased. Wow, that's really interesting. I had no idea. That's really cool. Here is the star card, or Ancient Starlight. And this says, deer have long been known in the Highlands of Scotland as fairy cattle, and there are many folk tales of supernatural women who tend them and can transform themselves into deer. Other tales tell of the Celtic mother goddess, the Cailleach, and her care for herds of wild beasts, primarily deer. She's seen in the depths of winter, wrapped in blankets and furs, driving her herds across the hills in search of food. And the moon child, for the moon. The sun. This is Lunad. I think it's Lunad. I can never say that correctly. So the festival of the Celtic sun god, Lu, and it's still celebrated across Scotland and Ireland every August, and a lot of pagans and witches celebrate this as well. So it's a time of harvest and hand fastings, time to celebrate life's pleasures, to feel the sun on our skin, and perhaps choose a companion to wander through the fields with. Renewal, and this represents judgment. She says hares are hugely important in Scottish witch lore. This small, slight, young witch girl stands, all in reverie. She seems as delicate and vulnerable as the leveret she cradles to her heart, but both will grow and become strong, swift and agile, as the mature green hair marked on her skin. Hair transformations are one of the most often recorded for shape-shifting witches, but life is not easy for the hare. Watching them in the fields, the girl is dazzled by the glory of their speed, grace, and vigor, but she knows they are hunted, as she may be too, if her magic is found out. And finally, we have the land, which is normally the world. So again, this is the Cailleach. And the book says, the Cailleach is the land, and the land is forever in her heart. The Great Mother. And moving into the wands, or the trees. I'll go a little bit more quickly here because I'm not going to be looking at the book. The 2. Three of trees or wands. I love that with all the squirrels. The 4. 5. 6. 7. 8. 9. 10 of Wands, or trees. I love this card. That is beautiful. Look at all the deer back there and her old hands. Here we have the Maid of Trees, or the Page. The Witch, or the Knight. The Queen. I love the ears. And the King of Wands, or trees. And moving into the cups, or waters. The 2. The 3. It looks like a salmon to me. I'm just going to have a look here. Yeah. Scottish salmon. The 4 of waters, or cups. The 5. 6. 7. 8. 9. 10. 'And then we have the Maid, or the Page of Cups, or waters. The Witch, or the Knight. The Queen. The King. And moving into the swords, or the skies. The 2. The 3. 4 of skies, or swords. 5. 6. Eight of Skies or Swords. And that, of course, is the image that was on the front of the deck. Nine. 10. The Maid or Page. The Witch or Knight. The Queen. The King. And moving into the Pentacles or the Stones. The 2. Three. 4. 5. 6 of Stones. 7. 8. 9. I really love the soft colors. 10. 'The Maid or Page. 'The Witch or the Knight. 'The Queen. 'And the King. Okay, I'm going to turn the camera around and we'll have a look at how these shuffle. Okay, so just before we shuffle, we'll have another quick look at these really beautiful backs. I love that. The Scottish thistle. Gorgeous. So I expect these are going to be very easy to shuffle, as is typical with Llewellyn cardstock. We've got a little bit of flexibility. And yeah, they are very easy to shuffle. If you have arthritis or other problems with your hands, Llewellyn cardstock, in my opinion, is some of the best if you want an easy shuffle. Especially if you love to riffle shuffle. Okay, let's see if we can fan these out. Yeah, they fan beautifully, don't they? And I'm not good at fanning. So let's just take one card and have a look at the entry in the guidebook. So we have the Maid of Stones, or the Page of Pentacles. Okay. So this says, her curling horns and the hagstone that she carries mark her as an eager young magical apprentice. These also connect her to the horned half-fae spirit of place, the Gleistig, I think it's Gleistig, I'm probably pronouncing that horribly wrong, whom we met in the Eight of Stones, who cares for the flocks and is deeply bonded with the land. She also shares kinship with the that's a bit of a tongue twister. She also shares kinship with the bone reader of the Seven of Stones, possessed of a second sight from the shepherding lineage of the Western Isles. Hagstones, also called adderstones for the serpent, symbol of the suit of stones, are naturally hold stones, and according to lore are powerful healing talismans that can also be used to glimpse the other world or future events by looking through the hole. Divinatory meaning. The young Maid of Stones is close to the earth in every sense, including literally. She has not yet grown very far up from it, and this suits her. She likes to wriggle her toes in the mud, to bend and kneel easily, to see what green shoots thrust up through the loam or what creatures rustle in the grasses, constantly feeling the rhythms of the land pulsing up through her body. This is a patient soul, content to take her time, yet gifted with surprising insight. She finds deep fascination in small and seemingly humble things, seeing the true richness of all life. Her steadiness of purpose will serve her well. In time, she will master the lore and skills that she studies, and her strength will grow and grow. Her heart is constant, and she is a loyal and true friend. Okay, so my final thoughts on this deck. I think it's really beautiful. It's obviously a very people-y deck. I wouldn't say this is a super deck for beginners. The guidebook doesn't show any keywords or reverse meanings, so unless you really know your cards or you're interested in going into the guidebook every time, then you may really struggle. However, if you're comfortable with the cards or you don't mind going into the guidebook, then you'll find this a really good deck, I think, to work with. I like the cardstock. I love the images. I love the colors in this deck. I love the fact that the women in this deck aren't these like beautiful model type figures. Their faces are worn and creased and lined, and you can see hair on their bodies and hair in their armpits, and they're just women. You know, they're just women. It's really a beautiful deck, and I feel, I really like it. It feels familiar somehow. So what do you think of this deck? I'd love to hear your thoughts. Is this a deck that you've had on your wish list? Have you been considering buying it? Do you have it already? If you have, and you've been using it for a little while, what do you think of it? I'd sure love to hear your thoughts and your opinions. Share them in the comments down below. Thank you so much for joining me today for this flip through and my first impressions of this really beautiful, beautiful deck. Thank you again for joining me. Until next time, may love and laughter light your days. Bye for now.